Vladimir Putin finally agrees to peace talks, but his demands will shock you. The ongoing war in Ukraine, which has now entered its third year, has seen significant international attention, diplomatic efforts, and countless casualties on both sides. As the conflict drags on, Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, has recently expressed an interest in engaging in peace talks to bring an end to the war. However, his demands and conditions for any agreement have left the world in shock and wondering what the future holds for the region and global stability. Putin's stance on peace. In a recent meeting with mothers and widows of Russian soldiers, Putin reiterated his position on peace. He made it clear that Russia would only agree to a peace deal that benefits its national interests. As reported by the BBC, Putin said, "We need to achieve a kind of peace that works for us and keeps our country safe for a long time. We don't want anything that belongs to others, but we won't give up anything that belongs to us. The goal is to ensure Russia's stability, peace, and security." This statement encapsulates the core of Russia's negotiating position: the preservation of what it deems as its territorial integrity and national security, no matter the cost. For Putin, the war in Ukraine is not simply about political maneuvering. It is about ensuring the long-term security of Russia. This perspective, however, is vastly different from Ukraine's vision of peace. Russia's territorial gains and Ukraine's resistance. One of the key sticking points in any potential peace talks is the issue of territory. Over the course of the conflict, Russia has occupied and annexed significant portions of Ukrainian land, including Crimea and parts of the Donbass region. For Putin, these territories are now considered part of Russia, and he has consistently refused to relinquish them. In his recent statements, Putin emphasized that Russia would not give up anything that belongs to us, a sentiment that directly challenges Ukraine's territorial sovereignty. Ukraine, on the other hand, views these territories as an integral part of its nation, and any peace agreement that calls for the permanent loss of these areas would be unacceptable. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly stressed the importance of restoring Ukraine's territorial integrity as part of any peace deal. Therefore, the divergent views on what constitutes belonging make any negotiation incredibly complex and fraught with tension. Putin's unyielding position. Putin's rhetoric reveals a leader who is unwilling to make significant compromises in peace talks. When someone suggested that Russia should not give in to anyone, Putin responded, "We are not going to do that." This uncompromising stance suggests that he may be prepared to continue the war indefinitely if it means securing Russian territorial claims and safeguarding what he perceives as Russia's long-term stability. The implications of this are significant. If Putin is unwilling to concede any land or make any meaningful compromises, it is unclear how peace talks could proceed in a way that satisfies both Russia and Ukraine. This could leave Ukraine in a position where it would be forced to make territorial concessions, a scenario that would likely be seen as a form of surrender after 3 years of intense fighting. The global impact and the role of the US. The global community is also deeply involved in the ongoing conflict. Ukraine has received considerable support from Western nations, especially the United States and European countries, who have supplied military aid, financial assistance, and diplomatic backing. However, recent developments have cast doubt on the future of this support. The United States, under the leadership of former President Donald Trump, has recently paused its military aid to Ukraine. Trump's administration has cited a desire to push for a peaceful resolution and has been vocal about its reluctance to continue supporting the war effort. This decision has been met with mixed reactions in the US and Europe, with some expressing concern that it may leave Ukraine vulnerable to further Russian aggression. Additionally, under Trump's administration, the US ceased sharing intelligence with Ukraine's military, further complicating the situation for the embattled country. Russia, unsurprisingly, welcomed the US decision to scale back support for Ukraine. Moscow sees this as a strategic advantage, potentially weakening Ukraine's position and providing it with leverage in negotiations. The absence of US support could also lead to a shift in European dynamics, as European nations are now discussing how they can fill the void left by Washington's reduced involvement. The path forward, a fragile hope for peace. As peace talks inch forward, it is becoming increasingly clear that reaching an agreement will not be easy. While Putin has expressed a willingness to negotiate, His conditions are not likely to sit well with Ukraine or the international community. The demand for Ukrainian territorial concessions, the rejection of a ceasefire without a final settlement, and the continued military pressure on Ukraine paint a grim picture for the future. For Ukraine, any peace agreement that involves surrendering territory would be seen as a betrayal of the sacrifices made by its soldiers and civilians over the past 3 years. Meanwhile, Russia's insistence on maintaining its territorial claims may prolong the conflict, with no immediate end in sight. The situation remains precarious, with no clear path to peace. The demands of both sides appear irreconcilable at this point, and the international community must grapple with how to navigate this complex geopolitical crisis. The coming months will be critical in determining whether any agreement can be reached that preserves Ukraine's sovereignty while addressing Russia's security concerns, or whether the war will continue to escalate, bringing further devastation to the region and beyond.